So here I am, a week in, and I've already got the beginnings of some really nice spinach plants coming my way. Guten gardening, everybody. You know, about 3 years ago, we did a video on one of the reasons why we garden, and in that video, we focused in on the Dirty Dozen. And if you've never heard of that list, the Dirty Dozen list is a list that's produced every single year that focuses in on the 12 that tend to have the highest occurrence of synthetic pesticides. And what brought this to mind to me was a couple of days ago, I was planting some spinach in our new GreenStalk seed starter. Actually, it's been 7 days. 7 days, and we've already got some really good growth showing up out of here. And I was planting the spinach, and coincidentally on my newsfeed, an article showed up about why you should consider growing more spinach. And the rationale behind it from that particular article was that spinach, in terms of leafy greens, was at the top of the list in the Dirty Dozen. Now, that's right behind strawberries. Strawberries tends to be number one, but right behind that was spinach on the 2023 list. And as I was thinking about this and how simple it is to grow spinach, I started thinking about why we make the decisions we make in terms of what we grow. And I rewatched the video that we recorded 3 years ago, and I mentioned in that video that a lot of the vegetables that are on that Dirty Dozen list are some of our favorite vegetables to eat. You know, I've got a ton of kale growing in my green stalks behind me in my raised bed. Kale is almost always in the top 3 or 4 on that list. And kale, along with spinach, they're such nutritious vegetables to grow, and they're so easy to grow, in my opinion. Now, when I was thinking about this, what the initial thought for this video was that I would encourage you to try growing some of these vegetables on the Dirty Dozen, specifically the spinach and kale, because as I said, you know, with spinach, you're looking at maybe 4 to 5 weeks, depending on the variety. It could go 6 or 7 weeks before you're harvesting. So it's a really fast vegetable to harvest, highly nutritious. And I understand that spinach contains oxalates, and so for some people, spinach isn't necessarily the way to go. Maybe you're more into the kale range, but they're easy vegetables to grow. The kale lasts month after month after month. We've done an entire video on how growing kale has changed our lives, really, just how hardy the vegetable is. But similarly, I mean, spinach isn't going to last as long. Spinach has its specific growing period. It prefers the cooler weather. I would say the hardest part about growing spinach is to make sure it doesn't bolt. We have excessive heat for a period of time, and you may end up with some bolting. But there are plenty of varieties of spinach out there that are more heat resistant. There are some varieties we haven't tried yet. The Malabar spinach is one of them that we really want to try. But it's so easy and so quick and so nutritious. It seems like rather than run the risk of purchasing something that has a pesticide on it, you have control over, and again, this goes back to the whole reason why we're gardening in the first place, but you have control over what's on that spinach, what's on that kale when you're growing it yourself. So why not spend a little bit of time growing some of these vegetables that make this list, this Dirty Dozen list, that are so easy to grow? So one of the things I want to do in this video today is of interest to me. I actually asked ChatGPT to do an analysis for me of the list from 2020, which is the last time we looked over the list, and the list from 2024 to see where the shifts or the major shifts have been. And to be honest, as a search tool, I think ChatGPT can be pretty useful in finding information from multiple sources and pulling it together. It makes it kind of easy to take a look at the bigger picture here. And you can see some of the main shifts that Dirty Dozen list has shifted away from for 2024, and you can see the similarities. And one of the things that I talked about here was that some of our favorite vegetables tend to appear on this list. And as you see the shift over time, you can even see the introduction of some of the vegetables that maybe weren't on the list in years past, or are gradually working their way up the list. For example, peppers. Sweet peppers, one of my favorite things to season food with, to eat raw, etc. And if we're buying a whole bunch of these, I mean, we're going to end up having to buy organic if we want to avoid some of those pesticides. And if we're buying organic, you know, we're spending a good bit more money in general. And if we're spending a good bit more money, it seems like we could probably save some of that money if we're actually growing these vegetables on our own. You know, I also talked about this at the time of our original video on this, and I do encourage you to go back and check that video out. It was a good video, in my opinion, where we spent a little bit more time going in depth with some of this, but the study out of Cornell at that time did talk about whether or not there was a known impact of some of these pesticides on mammals, what that looked like, and whether or not this Dirty Dozen list was truly as important as the creators were making it sound. And I think you can make some of your own decisions based on this. I mean, one of the things I know though is that if I am in control over what I'm growing, then I'm in control over what I'm putting in my body with regard to the produce, that's a big difference maker for me, because there's a peace of mind. And that idea of a peace of mind is a nice, maybe intended consequence of gardening. I think most people who garden, who grow their own food, probably come out of this saying to themselves, yeah, the stuff that I'm eating, I'm more confident in. It's fresher. It doesn't go through the process of traveling 1,500 miles to get to some destination, losing its nutritional value along the way. We don't have to worry about supply chain. There's all these little pieces that come into play on top of the idea that then we control what goes into the soil, we can control what goes onto the plants, etc. So here I am, a week in, and I've already got the beginnings of some really nice spinach plants coming my way. So I'd love for you all to start a conversation in the comments of this video wherein you look at this list of the Dirty Dozen plants and think about the ones that you are most inclined to grow, and think about your rationale behind that. Again, I think this is something we can probably all agree on, that in general, I mean, statistics have definitely shown this, we eat fewer fruits and vegetables than we should. And if we're already acknowledging the fact that we don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, if we can add to our diet those fruits and vegetables, and when we add those fruits and vegetables, we add the highest quality fruits and vegetables that can do the most good to our bodies, I think that's something to look at. It's definitely something I want to focus on more in the future as well. You know, while we've been fortunate enough to be able to preserve a lot of the fruits and vegetables that we've grown here, and then to be able to consume those at a regular basis at our meals, I think there's always something more that we can focus on. And I think the Dirty Dozen provides an interesting list, an interesting starting point for consideration when it comes to garden planning. So which of the vegetables on the list are you planning to grow in the upcoming season? 3 or 4 weeks from now, I should be harvesting some really delightful spinach. I'm getting ready to start my onions. There's just so much going on here in Zone 5, Wisconsin. So much to be happy about, so much to really prepare for. And taking a look at a list like the Dirty Dozen is just another tool that's going to help us in that preparation. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed today's video and found it useful. I like this kind of discussion video. I hope you do as well. I'm really excited for the future here. I'm excited for the cold weather to break in the near future. I gotta tell you, we haven't had much snow, but we're expecting some maybe this weekend or later this week, a couple of inches. We need it for the groundwater, if for nothing else. Hey, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, you're with us, you are good to grow.